We're about to dive into something that honestly feels like it's been ripped straight out of a science fiction movie. But it's not. It's happening right now, on battlefields all over the world. The fundamental rules of war are being rewritten, not by generals in a room, but by lines of code and some surprisingly cheap electronics.
Just look at this. On one side, you've got a $4 million main battle tank. That thing has been the symbol of military might for decades. And on the other side, a $500 drone, something a hobbyist could literally build in their garage. This wild difference in cost, it's the disruptive force at the heart of everything we're going to talk about. It is a David versus Goliath story playing out in real time.
So that's the big question, right? How is this ridiculously simple equation, a few $100 of tech taking out a multi-million-dollar piece of armor, completely changing the calculus of war forever? That's what we're going to unpack.
Okay, so to really get the impact, we've got to understand the tools. And trust me, we're not just talking about some person with a joystick flying a single drone. We're talking about an entirely new kind of digital arsenal.
First up is something called swarm intelligence. The best way to think about it is like a flock of birds or a school of fish. There's no single leader, right? But they all move together, perfectly coordinated. Now, apply that to drones. Imagine sending a wave of 50 drones at a target. A few of them map the area, a few more identify the air defenses, and then the rest coordinate to hit the target from all sides, all at the exact same time. It's all about overwhelming the enemy in a way one missile never could.
And that swarm idea plugs right into this concept of network-centric warfare. Now, this isn't a brand new idea, but drones and AI have absolutely supercharged it. Picture this, a tiny drone spots an enemy tank. Instantly, and I mean instantly, that info flashes across a network to an artillery unit miles away and to a commander watching the whole thing unfold. Before the tank crew even has a clue they've been spotted, a strike can be launched. It gives you this almost godlike view of the battlefield, letting you make decisions at unbelievable speeds.
And that speed, that brings us to the digitized kill chain. Now, the kill chain is just the process. Find a target, decide to shoot, and then shoot. It used to be this long, drawn-out process with layers of humans giving the thumbs up. It could take hours. But now, AI can scan the data, ID a target, and recommend an attack in seconds. The whole process gets compressed, and that dramatically shrinks the time for a human to actually think it over, which, as we'll see, has some pretty massive implications.
So, here's the main takeaway from all this tech. The real revolution isn't just one drone. It's the swarm, which is plugged into the network, which is then sped up by AI. It's a completely connected, intelligent, and frankly, a terrifyingly fast system of systems.
All right, so now that we've got a handle on the tech, let's see how it's actually rewriting the playbook of combat on what some are calling a transparent battlefield, where it's almost impossible to hide.
You can see why military planners are all over this stuff. It minimizes the risk to your own people. That's huge. You can get them in the air fast. They can hover over a target for hours waiting for the perfect moment. They can hit with incredible precision, and they can even fly deep behind enemy lines to mess with their supplies. Oh, and the time it takes to train an operator? It's a tiny fraction of what it takes to train a fighter pilot. It's a no-brainer.
And let's be clear, this isn't just some theory for the future. We're seeing it play out right now. In the war in Ukraine, there are countless videos of these cheap drones being used with devastating effect against tanks, ships, you name it. They're fundamentally changing how the fight on the front lines works.
Well, this has kicked off a whole new kind of arms race. For every new drone tactic, a countermeasure pops up. You have a GPS-guided drone? Okay, we'll use electronic warfare to jam its signal. You have a drone swarm? Well, we're building AI-powered guns to shoot them down automatically. You have constant surveillance from the sky? Fine, our soldiers will start digging what look like tunnels to hide in. It's this non-stop game of cat and mouse.
But this constant back and forth, this relentless pace of technology doesn't just change tactics. It's pushing us into much deeper, much more uncomfortable territory. As we start to hand off more and more decisions to these incredibly fast systems, we have to stop and ask, who's really in control here? And when things go wrong, who's responsible?
For a long time, the laws of war have been built around this idea of meaningful human control. It's the simple principle that a human being has to be the one to make that final life-or-death decision. But remember that kill chain we talked about? When AI shrinks a decision that took hours down to just a few seconds, the whole idea of meaningful human control gets pushed to its absolute breaking point.
And that opens up a total minefield of ethical problems. What happens when an autonomous weapon makes a mistake and hits the wrong target? Who's to blame? You get this huge accountability gap.
Then there's the risk of automation bias, where a soldier just gets used to trusting the machine's recommendation without thinking twice. And you have to wonder, does fighting a war through a screen make it easier psychologically to pull the trigger? These are really urgent questions we need to be asking.
And look, this isn't some fringe debate. Experts in international bodies are sounding the alarm. They're worried about how these systems can possibly follow the complex rules of war, and they're terrified of a scenario where two AI systems start fighting each other and escalate a conflict faster than any human could step in to stop it.
So let me ask you directly, if an algorithm makes that final call, who do you hold accountable? The person who wrote the code, the commander who sent the machine out there, the machine itself? There are just no easy answers.
So, with all that in mind, where's this all heading? Let's take a quick look into the future, at what some are already calling sixth-generation warfare.
The speed of this change is just staggering. Think about it. Back in the 2000s, drones were basically just for spying and the occasional targeted strike. Here we are in the 2020s, and we're already talking about AI-assisted fighting and drone swarms. The next obvious step, maybe in less than a decade, is fully autonomous AI systems. And beyond that, a future where AI, robots, and cyber warfare are all one seamless thing. And the next frontier is already being built. We're talking about nano drones the size of an insect, human pilots acting as quarterbacks for a team of autonomous drone wingmen, and this constant, invisible war being fought over the airwaves, the electromagnetic spectrum, to jam, hack, and control the enemy's robotic forces.
And this really is the core problem we're facing. Nations around the world are in a mad dash, a new arms race, to build these things. But the big question is, can our laws, our treaties, our very ethics, can they possibly keep up with the speed of this technology? Right now, it really doesn't look like it.
So, think about where we started. We started with a simple price tag, a $500 drone versus a $4 million tank. And we've ended up wrestling with some of the heaviest ethical questions of our time. From the economics of the battlefield, to the morality of letting a machine make a life-or-death call, the very DNA of conflict is being transformed.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling thought. As machines increasingly become the soldiers, making decisions at the speed of silicon, we have to ask ourselves, will the next war be fought by humans, or will it simply be fought for them?